All right, hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. We are picking up where we left off last. We are on last. We left off. We downloaded this 1876 image by right-clicking, opening a new tab, and then we went and we downloaded it and we opened it up into Photopia. Here, let me close a few of these guys. And we did some fun things here, and you took a screenshot. We were walking through our toolbar. Remember, this is our working image here. Here's our toolbars. Here's our option bar up at the top. And here's our command bar, okay, where we go to File and we can open and save all of our files. Okay, so last we left off, we went through the Move tool. We had our selection tools here. We talked about if we hold over top of a individual tool and toolbar, it'll give us a name and a keyboard shortcut if there is one. And down below, and then we went through our selection tools. We have our ellipse tool, our lasso tools, and our object selection tools. Then we have the crop tool, which crops images down to a certain size. Our eyedropper tool, which picks colors for us for our front and background colors. Our blemish tool, which uses artificial intelligence to try and get rid of blemishes and spots, also known as spot healing tool. We have our brush, which actually makes just brush strokes and colors. We can have soft brushes and hard brushes. And we talked about our adjusting from size and softness and preset brushes right there. Then we did our clone stamp, which we clone one area to paint in these extra shooting stars and this planet down here. And then we went and we used the eraser tool finally to erase information away. Okay, so we did all that in the last video. Now we're going to go through the lower half of the bar here and we're going to talk about all of the images in here. Okay, all right, so first I want you to go ahead and we're going to click out the eye. Let's go ahead and name this. We're going to go and call this part 1 on our toolbar or our layers palette, and we'll go ahead and click the eye out and we'll turn on the background layer that we got here. Okay, mine's a little off here. I'm going to reset it back up here. Looks like I stretched it. Go ahead and stretch that up to the top there in a minute. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this layer. Again, I can just right click and hit duplicate, or I can hit Command J as the quick key. And then I'm going to make a different one, okay? And then we're going to double click on this one and we're going to call this part 2. Okay, and I want to go ahead and make sure I have that highlighted and it's visible. And again, part 1, I want to go ahead and make sure the eyeball is poked out so we're not seeing that. All right, so let's go over here. So we are on our gradient tools, the next tool down below our eraser tool here. Okay, so our gradient tool, what it does, it makes a gradient. A gradient is a transition of color from one color to another. So let's pick our colors down here. So I've got, let's say I want to do a transition from this kind of pinky orange color right here to a blue color. Okay, so first I click my color picker here, and when I hit it, I have my preset swatches here, or I can hover here and it'll give me the eyedropper tool. So I'll pick that blue there and I push OK. Now I'm going to pick the background colors. Remember, it's a transition from one color to another. So I want to pick a second color for my background color, and I can pick one of these presets, or I can click right here. I want this pinky orange color right there. It's actually more red pink there. Then I push OK. Now you'll see my foreground and background color is the blue and the pink. Okay, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. Okay, now we have the gradient tool selected. Okay, and when we hold down, it has another tool in there, the paint bucket tool. Okay, so let's start with the gradient tool. The gradient tool, what it does, it takes, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag all the way down across my image, and it's going to fill the entire image with a blue to pink color. Okay, that is from the foreground color to the background. It does a smooth transition from foreground color, which is the blue, to the background color, which is pink. Okay, now if I click and I draw from left to right, it's going to go left to right. If I go from top corner to bottom corner, it'll go from top corner to bottom corner. Whatever direction I drag that line is how it's going to do. Okay, now I want to go ahead and I want you to hit Command Z 3 times to undo what I'm doing here. Okay, so I go back to this right here. All right, now when I don't have anything selected, it's going to fill that entire layer. Okay, so let's make a selection here. Let's go up here to our selection and let's make a rectangle selection here. And in here, I just want you to click and drag. Oop, I did not change my tool. Command Z. Got to click my tool, get my rectangle selection, and I want you to draw a small rectangle square shape right about there. Okay. Now we're going to get that transition tool. We're going to get that gradient tool, and I'm going to click and drag over top of that, and you'll see it'll only fill that selection tool. Okay. So that is what the selection does. Well, that's what the gradient tool does. Okay. Now, if I want to change that to a different color, I would just come over here and let's say I'm going to take this blue and I push OK. And I'm going to change the pink to a red and I push OK. And then I can change my colors that way. And you'll see it does that. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and make another square. Get our rectangle selection tool again. And I want you to make another square right above here. Okay. I've got it set in my option bar to make a new selection. Okay. I could add to my previous selection or subtract from it. We're just going to make a new selection. I'm going to drag out, so you should have another box here. And I want you to go to the gradient tool. Underneath the gradient tool is the paint bucket tool. Okay. Paint bucket tool, what it does, it takes the foreground color and it fills whatever foreground color is. Okay, so if I just grab my paint bucket tool and I click into that square I made and I click one time, it's going to fill that with the color that I dropped in there. Okay, now you'll see that it went around some of these other things. So if I click that, it's going to fill until it runs into another color. Okay, so I want you to go up and let's get rid of our selection for a second. So let's go select and say deselect. Now let's go over here and let's change to that red. Go ahead and switch your colors and get that red foreground color. And let's go and click right here on this green area with our paint bucket tool selected. And I click right there. And it's going to fill that red or that green area with red. So go ahead and click some of those green areas and change them to red. Okay. Like I said, it's going to fill that until it runs into another area. Okay. If I click those green areas, so if I click this area here, it's going to fill all this with red until it runs into an edge. So right there, it's probably going to stop. And that's going to fill in actually a lot right there. Okay. So it saw lots of colors that are the same. Again, let's go undo. And you'll see that it filled all of those. So those are all filled in, okay? Now it has a tolerance right here. So if I turn this tolerance way down, it's on 40. Let's say we put it on 20. And I click that same area again. You'll see it fills less area. It gives a smaller tolerance to what colors it sees together, okay? So if I take that all the way up to 100, just to be dramatic here, and I click, let's do Command Z to undo that, and I click again, you see it's going to fill up the entire frame. Okay, it's going to say those colors, it's going to reduce its depiction of how sensitive it is to other colors. Okay, so that's what tolerance does. Okay, so hit Command Z and we'll undo that. Okay, turn that back down to 40. Okay, now we're going to go over here. Our next tool down is our liquefy tool, our blur tool, and you hold down on that and you'll see there's 3 tools in there. We're going to talk all about our blur tool, our sharpen tool, and our smudge tool. Let's go ahead and get our blur tool first. Or actually, let's get smudge first. We'll start with smudge. And I want you to go up here in this little area in the stars and kind of zoom in so you can see. All right. So you see my brush right there. So the smudge tool, you see what it is. You may not be able to tell what it is, but it's a little finger. And it is going to do the exact same thing as if I took my finger on a chalkboard on chalk and smushed it. Okay, so if I just click and drag, it smushes that along. Okay, that's what the smudge tool does. Okay, so I can smudge things around. Okay, and then let's go to the next part of that. Hold down. Then I've got the blur tool. Let's go to one of these tools, and what the blur tool does, and we'll go to this one right here. Okay, doesn't have to be the exact star that I'm showing, but just grab one that fits inside of your tool size here. I've got my brush size set to about 45, by the way, and the hardness all the way up. So I'm going to click right here, and I'm just going to click a few times. And you see as I'm doing that, it's making that star more and more blurry. Okay? Same thing right here. I just click, and it's going to get fuzzier and fuzzier around the edges. Okay? That's what the blur tool does. It blurs things a little bit, takes them out of focus. If I go over here to the Sharpen tool, obviously, Sharpen tool is going to do the exact opposite. I'm just going to click on here, and it's going to make things sharper and sharper with each click. Okay, just like this, that paint bucket tool, it has a strength of it right up here. It's at 50%. If you want it to work faster, you can turn that all the way up and it'll work a lot faster. It's set at 50% by default. And you see it just keeps sharpening that up, and it sharpens everything inside of your brush, so it's sharpening the background color and the color up front as well. Okay, go ahead and move down, and we got our dodge and burn tools. Okay, dodge and burn in our sponge tool. Okay, so let's get our dodge tool first. Okay, and you'll see on our options bar up here, it's again is a brush. So let's make it a little bit bigger so we can see up here. Okay. All right, and what dodge and burn do, they work together. They do opposite things. Okay, dodge is going to make things lighter, and burn is going to make things darker. So if you think of like burnt things get dark and black, that's if you want to think about that like charcoal. But that's what it does. So let's click on one of these stars here, and you see on my options I can set to shadows, midtones, or highlights. Let's just leave it on midtones for right now. You see it also has a power bar right there of 50%. We're going to leave it on 50. And again, make sure I've got, I want to have the dodge tool. Okay, now this is going to make things lighter. So if I click right here and I click, you'll see it's going to make that area lighter. Now if I go to the burn tool and go to that same area, and I'm going to go and make that tool a little bigger too. And I click, and I'm just going to go over here and I click a few times. It's going to make that area darker. Okay. And it is a brush, so I can make that softer hardness. Let's take the hardness down all the way down so you can see the opposite of it. And it'll take away that soft or that hard edge that we have there. Okay, so that's the dodge and burn tone. Dodge makes things darker, dodge makes things lighter, and burn makes things darker. All right, last one in there is our sponge tool. Sponge tool is going to affect three things, or actually just two things. Our saturation or desaturation. Okay. Now, saturation and desaturation, what that talks about is the intensity of the color. Okay. So all the way desaturated is going to be black and white images, all the way down to grays. All the way up is going to be up to like day glow colors. Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll start with desaturate. Okay. It's a brush. Again, make your brush big enough so you can see it here. And let's just kind of get our hand tool. Yeah, that's not what I want to do. Let's go ahead and get our hand tool, and we're just going to move over to a different area. We'll go up here to the edge. Okay. And if you desaturate, you'll see that it's going to make this just a black and white and gray area. Okay. The more I click in there, the more it makes it black and white and gray. It takes all the color out. Okay. Now if I go and I go the opposite way and I go saturate, and I'm just going to make a square next to this one, it's going to try and make the colors more intense. And you see it gets, as I click and drag, every time I do it, it makes it a little bit brighter purple. Okay. So I can make from 1, 2, 3, 4 times brighter, deeper purple there every time I click. Okay, so that's what the sponge tool does. Okay, moving on down, we're going to get to our type tool, and I think that's the last one we're going to talk about today. Typography makes typography. So right here we got our type tool, that's what's in our hand, and then you'll see up here we have our options. Okay, the typography, it has all kinds of different fonts that we can choose from. So pick a font and click in your image, and that'll give you an area that you can start typing. Okay, you have your font, whether it's got regular or bold or italic or something like that. Your size is right there. You can either type in the number. So let's type in 100. Okay, let's choose a color. You've got a color, it's automatically set to black, but let's pick something a little brighter here. Let's actually use our color picker, and we'll pick this blue right here on the side of our planet. We'll push OK. You've got your typesetting, whether you want it left, right, or centered. Some different things, warp and all that, but we'll go ahead and type there. And let's type Photoshop tutorial. Okay. Then when you're done typing, you just hit that command because it's a transformation, and it'll commit that. Okay. Now that automatically makes a new layer when you type typography in there. Okay. So I can take that layer, and just like any other layer, I can move it around. Now, typography is treated a little bit different, but I can grab my move tool and I can resize it like that. So I want you to resize that, put it right in the center like that. Hit Command 0 so that you have that, and then I want you to commit it by hitting the check mark. All right, so from right there, that is all of our toolbars that we're going to talk about. Pen tool and the direct selection tools are for a whole nother lesson, like the selection tools. That gives you a basic of everything that you're doing in your Photoshop with your toolbar. Okay, all right, I want you to take a screenshot of this by hitting Command, Shift, and 3. If you're on a Mac, hitting print screen. If you are on a Windows machine, and if you are on a Chromebook, you're going to hit Control and the show screen button, which is right above your 5, 6, 7 buttons, top center. Okay, and take a screenshot, turn that into the assignment, and do good work. I will see you at a later date.